I bet you use AI daily for your work, right? And I bet you've seen lots of different videos and different prompts on how you can use AI to automate your work for blah, blah, blah. And I'm one of these people producing these videos. But your AI work is only as good as your prompt is. So in this video, I will teach you how to properly prompt engineer your prompt to get the most outcome of AI for your daily work. We will talk about first how AI processes these prompts. How does AI even think? How do these language models think? What do they do with these prompts? Then I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to build a proper prompt by yourself. The things, the necessities that each prompt should have, especially if you use AI for academia. And finally, as a third point, we're going to touch on different LLM models and which ones are best for your work and how to choose and pick them. Before we start, a quick introduction. If you don't know me yet, hi, I'm Ainur. I'm a third-year PhD student in chemical engineering at Imperial College London, and I made it my mission to teach you every secret I know in academia, video by video, through all my social media channels. So let's dive right into the video with step number 1. How does AI process these prompts that we put in? This is very important so that we can understand how AI thinks and so that we can write better prompts and make it produce better results for our work, right? So first of all, AI works with patterns, okay? If we just say, summarize this, then it will just create a very generic summary. But if you are more precise and you say, summarize this neuroscience paper in 200 words, highlight hypotheses, methods, conclusions for a graduate audience, then you'll get what you want, a 200-word summary on this neuroscience paper for a graduate audience. So then the model puts the right patterns, the depth, the audience, the way it writes the summary. So if you compare it with humans, I've never thought about how we humans think. It could be similar, but in a way, AI, when you talk about a thesis, for example, what AI does is it searches for patterns in its database that fit to the term of thesis, right? It doesn't inherently know what a thesis is. It just has this huge database where it can look for patterns of what a thesis is. So the more information you give on audience, format, roles, constraints, the better it can produce the patterns for the work that you want it to do. Think of providing clear signpost signs to lead the AI in its vast database that it has to the right data that it needs to then accomplish the work that you need it to do. So being specific is the key word here. You really want it to be specific. Think of like trillions of information of data that these AI models have. And you really want to be so specific that it picks out exactly what it needs to accomplish the task that you want it to do. And not just some random stuff. It could get lost in its database and produce all weird stuff that we've all experienced, weird answers, non-fitting results. And that all boils down to a poor prompt most of the time. So if we look at another example, for example, a prompt like this. Create a table comparing climate change impacts on agriculture in Canada, Brazil, and Argentina using peer-reviewed data only. This is a great prompt because first of all, you define the output format. You tell the AI model that you want a table. And I use this a lot with ChatGPT or with Claude or with Notebook LM where I say, I need an overview table. Don't just give me like text written. I want a table, and then it creates a great table. And you can even say create an exportable table, and then you'll get like a CSV file that you can just download, right, and implement and like feed it directly into your literature review database. And then you specify it on the countries that you want to have. You say Brazil, Argentina, and Canada, right? Then the scope, say climate change, agriculture, and then you say peer-reviewed data only. So you also specify the data range. How can we make this prompt better? You could specify it even more. You could say data from the years 2010 to 2020. You can say use PubMed only, use Google Scholar only, use, look for the databases that you want to specify it to look in. Then climate change and agriculture is again very broad, okay? Like what specific things in climate? Do you want to keep it that broad or do you want to like specify it a little more? What should it look at? What type of agriculture? What part of agriculture? And then also like what aspects are we talking about here? So the more specific you are, the better your results will get. And this leads right to the second part of this video, which is how to structure your prompt. So I'm just going to give you a checklist now, okay? If you build your prompt like this, every single prompt will have a great quality to start with, and this will enhance your results by a lot. So we'll have a 5-step workflow, okay? First, we're going to define the task, then the context, then the references, then the output, and finally, the constraints. What does that mean? Let's dig right into it. So step number 1 is the task. Okay, what is the exact job that we want it to do? So in the beginnings of ChatGPT, people would say like, write a paper, write a list, do this and that, right? These are very generic commands, and while these are also tasks, they're not specific enough. So write a paper, like that's just what this is not going to work as a prompt, right? But if you say something like extract information on how much the temperature increases, the prognosis on how much the temperature is going to increase in the next decades due to agricultural changes in Canada, highlight the agricultural methods and how different agricultural methods contribute to different climate change activities, then highlight preventative methods people developed to reduce the increase of temperature. You know, that's the task, as detailed and specified as possible. Step number 2 is the context. Okay, context means in what context do you need that information. So it's important, for example, I'd say I'm a PhD student who writes a review article on the impact of agriculture on climate change in Canada. That's the context. So like in this context, in this setting, I want you to extract that data. So now it knows, okay, like we're academic, but we're young academics, and this is going to be, in the end, it's going to be a literature review. That's what we're aiming at. So this context is very important. So tell it who you are, what you're doing, what's the environment in which this task should be done. Number 3, references. This is so important. These are examples. This is like, hey, maybe you've already created an overview table where you extracted important information. Then you can upload that, attach it to the ChatGPT file, to the AI, and you'll be like, hey, do it similarly in structure as it is attached. Right? Or if you use it to write a text, you can be like, hey, this is a written text that I wrote. This is my tone, my voice, this is how I write text. Please match the tone, match the style of this. Be exactly like that. So references really means to give examples, you can also like attach PDFs to it, all the articles. For example, if you want to like look again at the climate change example and you already have an extensive literature collection, by all means upload all that to that chat and give it background, because this is a solid foundation. For example, at the stage where I'm in right now in my PhD, I have so many articles on all different topics. I have a huge literature database myself. So if I were to extract important information from that, I just upload it the PDFs to the query that I'm creating there. So step 3, references, very important. The more references you give it, the better. And if you have a lot of references, then by all means create a project in ChatGPT. Don't do it just in one single chat. Create a project, upload everything you have, and then within that project you can always refer to the stuff that you've uploaded. So this way you don't have to re-upload all the time repetitive things for a task that goes longer than just one single chat. Number 4, output. Again, very important. That's how you want the information to be presented. If you don't tell ChatGPT anything, it will just create like this written text that we are all too familiar with. But if you say, for example, what I always say is create a downloadable CSV file, create a table, create a PowerPoint presentation slide that I can download, create a PDF, create a photo, create a picture. All these things are output formats. And again, be specific. So for example, for literature review overview tables, I oftentimes say ChatGPT, hey, extract information on velocity, temperature, pressure, experimental method used, limitations, future work suggested, all that, extract that, create a table, put the reference also there on the table, and make this a downloadable CSV file. And this way I get the exact format that I need, and I can download it and plug it into my own literature review database. So output is very important. Whatever output you want, ChatGPT at the moment is able to do almost all outputs. Like whether it's, as I said, whether it's a PowerPoint slide, PDF, photo, PNG style, JPEG, or CSV, it does everything. You just have to tell it to do so. So output, important. That's number 4. And finally, number 5 is constraints. And this is also important. So this is basically the filter. So if you just let it be, then it's going to use all that entire, as we talked in the beginning, like it has a huge database, right? These LLM models, and it's just going to use all of it and just decide whatever is important to it. Whereas if you refine it yourself, then you'll just get the results that you're looking for. So for example, climate change, it has probably, I'm not a climate change researcher, I don't know, but let's say, I just assume that most relevant work has been done in the 2000s, right? So if you limit this and say, look from 2010 to 2025, what has changed, right? Then you give it a time constraint. Then you can also say only look into PubMed, right? Only use this database. Don't look into other literature databases. I mean, just as an example, right? You can also say only use highly cited papers, only use peer-reviewed data. Whatever it is, give it some restraints so that it just focuses on the important stuff and does not look into everything, and also comes up with unnecessary stuff, right? So that's number 5 constraints. So now, the good part is you don't have to like actually write that super complicated prompt. You just need to collect from these 5 steps keywords, like just make notes, whatever it's important, then plug that into ChatGPT and say create a prompt based on these notes, and then it will create its own prompt. And then copy that prompt, start a new ChatGPT chat, and paste that super prompt in there. And trust me, this is gonna make such a huge difference, because prompt engineering is actually really a thing. Like, you can't just give an LLM model a shitty prompt and then expect good results. So this is like the single most valuable skill you need when you work with AI, that you know how to write prompts. So that's why I'm doing this video for you, because you need this. Like, instead of showing you new tools all the time, these are the basics. Like, prompt engineering, super important. I will attach a reusable workflow, especially for the topic around literature review, to the description. You'll also have a checklist that you can just look at when you write a prompt, whether you've ticked all the boxes. I think that's going to be useful for you for future reference, just to get learning on how to prompt engineer. So if you found this useful, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I'm a small channel and I value every single engagement with my videos. It means a lot and it helps the channel to grow and for me to produce better videos for you guys. With that being said, stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!